Peace, family. My name is Vicki Dillard, your sister with the curly braids here on African Diaspora News Channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to give us a big thumbs up, and share the broadcast. When you do that, it informs others that we're here. And how many of you all know it's so important that we increase our collective Black voice? And how many of you all know that media is a part of warfare? And we, alternative Black media, are the counter voice to the apparatus of the oppressive class. And we, of course, speak for your interests. So thank you so much for doing that. Also, did you know we have our own app? You heard that right. We have our own app. You should see the information below. Be sure to check us out and tell everybody you know. This gives us a bit more freedom. We don't face some of the restrictions that we tend to face on some of the other platforms. So be sure to connect with us there, okay? Very important. Thank you so very much. Family, as many of you all know, for some months now, for quite a bit of time now, and I'm sure along with some of my other lovely colleagues, have been doing coverage concerning nations in the Red Sea area, the Horn of Africa area, like Ethiopia and Eritrea. Now, as I begin to discover more and more about this region, and I just consider myself to just be a curious student that just happens to, have access to different platforms, and I like to bring attention to certain things and let the family around the world take it from there. I have been absolutely shocked and amazed. I listen to a lot of geopolitical, and I should say read a lot of geopolitical information, take in a lot of geopolitical information in one form or another, more and more. And I have been absolutely amazed by the level of plotting and scheming global powers. And I need y'all to really understand this, that global powers are engaged in. When we bring you this information, it's not just so you can be outraged, not just so you can say, I can't believe this. Try to think about what you're hearing and what, if anything, you can practically do based on your situation and where you are situated in the world. Do you understand? I always like to use this as an example. When you're watching the weather woman or the weatherman on TV, giving you the forecast for the day, you're not expecting them to give you quote unquote solutions, right? They're telling you the climate so you'll know how to prepare. If it's going to rain, that means you probably need to leave early. You need an umbrella, right? If you have children, you need to make the proper plans and provisions for that as well. Yes. If you're going to work, you might want to leave a little early so that you have extra time in case you run into traffic. So that is the same here. We're giving you the temperature. Talk black to me, somebody. We're letting you know the temperature in the atmosphere. And so you need to, as a world shaker and history maker in your own way, wherever you are situated in the world, take the information that you hear from us and see and pray on and meditate how you can practically integrate that information into your life. Because when each and every one of us do our parts, no matter how big or small, we impact the world. Yes. With that being said, when Eritrea came on my radar, and when I saw nonstop coverage of how the US government hounds and harasses that nation, trying to undermine them for so many decades, I immediately knew, without any details, that there must be a reason the United States is after Eritrea in particular. And of course, I was right. I came across this piece from the Ministry of Information labeled U.S. State Department Policy of Unremitting Hostility Toward Eritrea. Now, this piece is discussing a recent policy paper that the United States released, the U.S. State Department released. Now, they quietly amended certain parts of it just this month. And I noticed that in its nearly, I think it's about 18 pages or so, yes, they're trying to amend some of their explicit language of the United States exposing themselves. Now, first of all, let me tell you, this policy paper, which hopefully you'll be able to see here in just a moment, is 18 pages. It's titled Integrated Country Strategy. Now, this piece, listen, it was originally approved May 5th of 2022. But they revised it as recently as November 17th, 2023. So they just recently quietly revised and released it. But I love the fact that I was able to go through this piece that showed some of the most problematic parts of America exposing its hands and its agenda of sabotage for Eritrea. That's why I'm saying that they quietly released this policy paper, because they're trying to soften, in my estimation, her explicit hegemonic agenda for Eritrea. Again, this is from the State Department. I want to read you a piece from this article that was published in the spring of this year. And then I want you to know that they updated some parts of it as recently as November of this year. Are you following me? So this piece that was written some months ago exposing this in the spring of 2023, this piece talks about the United States, the State Department's integrated country strategy on Eritrea, right? Of its most problematic parts that it points out, and this is its 18 pieces, you can easily read it. But again, they just recently revised it. That's the one that I started to dig into. But I want you to again listen to the piece that was written a few months ago exposing this policy paper from the United States State Department. The policy document announces for the first time that the U.S. had indeed pursued, this is a quote from the piece, since September of 2021, U.S. National Security Council, that's the NSC, endorsed policy of disciplined confrontation with the Eritrean government. The U.S. State Department's policy paper stated that they were, since September 2021, the U.S. National Security Council endorsed policy of disciplined confrontation with the Eritrean government. In accordance with this subversive directive, core task of the U.S. Embassy in Eritrea, primarily government misinformation, disinformation. This is a quote from the piece. I'm going to slow down and say that part again. Another quote from the piece says that in accordance with this subversive directive, the U.S. Embassy in Eritrea primarily revolve around, quote, rigorously challenging government mis and disinformation, seeks to isolate Eritrea's toxic regional influence, and limits its engagement with political level regime officials. The legality, rationale, and national security ramifications of what is termed as a policy, quote, of disciplined confrontation aside, it must be underlined that the now formally declared hostile U.S. position was never communicated to Eritrea prior to the publication and official dissemination of this policy paper. As this piece points out, again, the piece I'm reading from now is from spring of this year. After I was reading through this piece, I decided to go look at the updated version and realized that they just updated it this month. Quietly made some amendments and revisions. So the U.S. government official policy papers admitted that they're trying to undermine the Eritrean government with confrontation, and they never told the Eritrean government these plans. That's not all. Among the many other problematic parts of this 18-page policy paper from the U.S. State Department, as this article so aptly declares, the temerity of the U.S. administration to arrogate to itself the mandated mission of mapping out Eritrea's future political trajectory is outrageous and deplorable. Amen to that. Indeed, the policy document unabashedly announces, y'all brace yourself for this. This is a quote, and this is a directive from the government. Our primary strategic policy goal is to cultivate Eritrea's next generation and prepare for a post-Isaiah's regime. Family, I'm gonna have to do another series. I was talking to the brother Phil here to let him know I got to have a special broadcast just covering these U.S. government policy papers and U.S. government hearings and all these official things that the government is secretly doing, not only in Eritrea, but around the planet, with the emphasis on my Black family in the diaspora. I'm going to read that last part again because I'm going to have to do another follow-up. I'm reading you a quote from the U.S. policy paper prior to its recent amendment. It stated, quote, our primary strategic policy goal is to cultivate Eritrea's next generation and prepare for a post-Isaiah's regime. Family, I know it's hard for us to wrap our minds around this because we're not this arrogant and sick and twisted. We don't have hegemonic tendencies in our blood. So it's hard for us to understand that somebody would, number one, feel this way, believe this way, think this way, and then make it a part of the official U.S. governmental policy. The United States wonders why they are despised around the world, and they love to act like that everybody is involved in some form of anti-American propaganda. No, it's when you tell the world in an official policy paper that you don't expect everybody to read, that your primary focus, objective, strategic policy goal is to start messing with the Eritrean children. The government is admitting that they plan to program and indoctrinate and influence the younger generation of the Eritreans. They are sitting here, the U.S. government, after its open failures in Syria and Afghanistan and Iraq and all of its secret and quiet wars it continues to engage in throughout Africa. For example, Yemen, those quiet wars we're engaged in there. She says she's making plans. Let's say it like this. And I'm saying it in a question form. To engage in an Eritrean coup. Because you said you were planning for a post-Isaiah's regime. And this policy paper was so disrespectful, that particular section did not refer to him as H.E. President Isaiah's Afwerki. They said a post-Isaiah's regime. Calling him by his first name. And without the proper appellation and moniker and respect. At the very least, referring in the United States grammatical protocol by his last name. The fact that you are not even consciously aware of how diabolical and wrong and hegemonic this is lets us know this is why the whole wide world finds it absolutely impossible to get along with you. My African brothers and sisters will remember very well the Berlin Conference, yes. Just like our brothers and sisters in certain Middle Eastern areas, talk black to me, that's really part of Africa and East Asia. Just like we understand here in the United States. Just like my brothers and sisters understand every and anywhere in the world, from Australia, indigenous blacks, all throughout South America and the Caribbean and beyond. You are engaged in schemes and secret councils to remap and to remake the worlds of other peoples that don't belong to you. How is this the station and the business of the U.S. government to say they are sitting there preparing for a post-Isaiah's regime? Isaiah's regime. And just prior to that, in the same sentence, says that their primary goal, they're telling you that your babies are their target. I can promise you, African diaspora family, the average American is unaware of what I'm saying to you today. Do geopolitical organizations and think tanks know about it? Yes. Do members of the UN know about it? Yes. Do certain members of the AU know about it? Yes, I'm sure. Do other geopolitical forces from the global south to the north south are likely aware of this? Yes. But the average person in the United States, I can assure you, have no clue that this is what this government is up to. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it, because it's an 18-page policy paper and they revised it just this month. I had to expose parts that they have in it. This is explicit language, official formal language from the U.S. State Department. And they quietly released this paper after making amendments I was born and raised here in the United States and many generations prior before me. I come from an oppressed and enslaved people. Shame on you, America. We highlight these things, and I say this often, because it is our hope that you will course correct. It is our hope that when we show you these things, that you can save yourself by making an about face and righting your wrongs. But because of your arrogant self, you refuse. And like the Sunday school version of the story of Moses and Pharaoh and the children of Israel, I call it the Sunday school version because it's not just what they taught us, because it's more esoteric than that. But I'm going to keep it Sunday school version. When Moses was given the assignment to tell Pharaoh to let my people go, Sunday school version. Every single time before the 10 plagues were released, Pharaoh was given a direct warning. And every time the divine would manifest a major miracle and back up the first warning, the second warning, the third warning, the fifth warning, the 10th warning, the 9th warning, finally the 10th. Pharaoh hardened his heart. And things got worse for him and his nation. Not for Black America, baby. Talk black to me. We are the remnant. We are the exception. So whenever anybody talks about the fall of America, you best believe we ain't talking about us. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it. My name is Vicki Dillard. I am starting the Vicki Dillard Mystery School, where I'm going to be teaching high-level spiritual principles that's going to get you ready to rule the world. I just asked for 12 months for a very low cost. Go to my website at VickiPlanet.com. That's VICKI Planet.com. But most importantly, be sure to share this broadcast from African Diaspora News Channel. I can't wait to see you again.